The American Civil War is often remembered for its intense battles, iconic figures, and its profound impact on the nation's history. But hidden within this tumultuous period are stories that send a chill down your spine. From mysterious disappearances to eerie wartime encounters, these unsettling tales reflect the darker side of war. In this video, we delve into 10 chilling Civil War stories that you may not have heard before. These accounts are filled with intrigue, suspense, and a touch of the supernatural, shedding light on the little-known horrors that took place during one of America's most divisive conflicts. If you found these stories fascinating, make sure to subscribe to our channel for more gripping tales from America's past. From the untold stories of the Old West to the shadows of the Civil War, you won't want to miss the chilling facts and hidden histories we uncover. The Devil's Den, Gettysburg. Devil's Den, a rocky hill located in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, has earned its unsettling name due to the labyrinthine passages that wind through its massive boulders. These natural formations have long been associated with legends, some even suggesting they were created by a mythical serpent, drawing connections to the biblical figure of the devil. The hill, though small in stature, has become a focal point for many eerie tales and paranormal experiences. Many who visit Devil's Den report unusual occurrences, such as a sudden loss of electronic signals. Devices that once worked perfectly seem to malfunction unpredictably, creating a sense of disconnection from the modern world. Visitors also recount unsettling sightings, including the apparition of Union soldiers in full uniform wandering through the rocky outcrop. One particularly haunting account involves a soldier who appears to have suffered a severe chest wound, seemingly asking passers-by for assistance. These stories have contributed to the reputation of Devil's Den as a location of mystery and spectral activity. The site's eerie presence can be understood when considering its historical significance. Devil's Den was a key location during the second day of the Battle of Gettysburg, one of the most pivotal and intense confrontations of the Civil War. The battle, notorious for its high number of casualties, marked a turning point in the conflict and remains the deadliest battle in American history. The intensity of the events that transpired here, combined with the terrain's natural isolation, creates an atmosphere that might explain the numerous ghostly reports and supernatural legends associated with the hill. The taste of brains. During the Civil War, many soldiers, especially those who were literate, kept detailed diaries. These personal journals often served as a means to document their experiences, both for themselves and as letters to loved ones back home. Henry Fitzgerald Charles, a member of the 21st Pennsylvania Cavalry, was one such soldier who kept a diary throughout his service. His writings provide a first-hand account of his participation in numerous engagements during the war, and they offer a unique glimpse into the life of a soldier who endured the harsh realities of conflict. Over the course of his service, Charles witnessed many of the atrocities that became synonymous with the war. One particular experience, however, stands out vividly in his diary. After a battle had subsided, Charles and a fellow soldier ventured into the surrounding woods to search for any items that could be salvaged. As they rested, a sudden and unexpected event unfolded. Charles recounts how he heard the sharp crack of a distant rifle shot. In that instant, his mouth was filled with what he recognized as his companion's blood and tissue. A sharpshooter, hidden somewhere in the distance, had aimed at both men, likely hoping to take them both out with a single shot. Remarkably, the bullet was deflected by his friend's skull, sparing Charles but tragically causing the death of his comrade. This unsettling moment, where Charles found himself with a gruesome and shocking experience, highlights the brutal and unpredictable nature of warfare. Beyond the physical injuries, these moments often left deep psychological scars, as soldiers had to grapple with the trauma of close calls, lost comrades, and the ever-present specter of death. Henry Fitzgerald Charles's diary not only provides us with a rare, personal narrative of a soldier's perspective, but also gives insight into the kind of unimaginable experiences that men faced in the midst of war. The Dream of John C. Calhoun. John Calhoun was a prominent American politician in the 19th century, best remembered for his role as vice president under both John Quincy Adams and Andrew Jackson. Known for his staunch and unyielding defense of Southern traditions and values, Calhoun earned the nickname the Cast Iron Man. His unwavering stance on issues like slavery and the preservation of white supremacy made him a highly controversial figure in American history. Calhoun's advocacy for these views contributed to the growing divide between the North and South, setting the stage for the tensions that would eventually lead to the Civil War. A few years before the war, as tensions were rising and Calhoun was contemplating the idea of secession, he experienced a dream that would later become the subject of much discussion. In this vivid dream, Calhoun claimed to have seen the figure of a dead man. The face that appeared to him was one he instantly recognized as that of George Washington, the first president of the United States. Though in this vision, Washington was dressed in his military uniform from the Revolutionary War. Washington's presence was commanding and otherworldly, striking Calhoun with a profound sense of awe. The dream took a darker turn when Washington, in an ominous gesture, placed a black mark on Calhoun's right hand. This mark, Washington explained, was a symbol of betrayal, one that was known in the afterlife as the sign of Benedict Arnold, the infamous Revolutionary War figure who had betrayed his country. In the dream, Washington solemnly warned Calhoun that any attempt to dissolve the Union, something Calhoun had been advocating for, would be considered an act of treason, and it would follow him into the next world. The message was clear. Such an action would not only harm the nation, but would haunt him for eternity. This dream and its prophetic warning highlight the intense internal conflict Calhoun may have felt about his role in advocating for secession. Despite his personal convictions, the dream suggests a deep moral reckoning that troubled him on a spiritual level. Washington's warning underscores the gravity of disunion, reminding Calhoun that actions taken in life, especially those as consequential as leading a nation toward division, could have eternal ramifications. While Calhoun did not abandon his beliefs, this experience serves as a reminder of the powerful internal struggles that even the most determined figures faced. Angels glow. This story has a surprisingly uplifting conclusion. Yet imagining the experience from the perspective of the soldiers who lived through it, it must have been both unsettling and mysterious. There are several historical accounts from the Civil War that describe an unusual phenomenon where soldiers' wounds would sometimes begin to glow with an eerie blue light. The most notable of these reports came from the Battle of Shiloh, one of the war's bloodiest encounters. The soldiers who bore these glowing injuries appeared to have a higher chance of survival, which sparked the belief that the light was a sign of divine intervention. Over time, this strange occurrence became known as Angel's Glow. For over a century and a half, the glowing wounds were dismissed as mere superstition. Many assumed the light had no scientific basis, and it was accepted as a mystical phenomenon attributed to the chaotic and often unexplained experiences of war. However, in the late 20th century, the mystery was finally unraveled by an unlikely investigator. A 17-year-old boy who was intrigued by the phenomenon after hearing about it from his mother, who was studying bioluminescent bacteria. His curiosity led him to connect the historical accounts of angel's glow with the possibility of bacteria responsible for producing such a light. Teaming up with a friend, the young researcher conducted experiments and discovered the cause of the strange glowing wounds. It turned out that the light was not a supernatural sign, but the result of a bacterium known as photohabdous luminescens. This bacterium, commonly found in soil and known for its bioluminescent properties, would infect the wounds of soldiers, emitting a faint blue glow. Interestingly, the bacteria also seemed to have a positive effect on the healing process, potentially explaining why the soldiers who were affected by it were more likely to survive. For the soldiers at the time, who had no knowledge of microbiology or the science behind such occurrences, this glowing phenomenon would have been a truly unearthly experience. To modern science, it's a fascinating case of nature's own healing power. But to those who lived through it, it must have been a surreal and bewildering sight. St. Peter's Ghost. St. Peter's Church in Harpers Ferry, West Virginia, served a crucial role during the Civil War, operating as a hospital for the wounded soldiers. Throughout the conflict, it became a place where soldiers from both the Union and Confederate sides were treated, with medical staff tending to the injured regardless of their affiliation. The church itself was carefully protected, as both armies recognized its significance and avoided using artillery or targeting it during combat, preserving its structure. The church is said to be haunted by the spirit of a young soldier who died there in a heartbreaking manner. According to the tale, the young man, severely injured, made his way to the church and requested medical attention from the nurses. His wounds were deemed less urgent compared to others who had more serious injuries, so he was left waiting outside the church, watching as other soldiers were tended to first. He lay at the church's entrance, hoping for help but growing weaker as time passed. Eventually, the nurses turned their attention to him, and they began to carry him inside to receive the treatment he desperately needed. However, just as he passed through the church's threshold, the soldier's injuries overcame him. He collapsed and died, but not before reportedly whispering the words, "I'm saved." These final words suggest a sense of peace or acceptance, perhaps finding solace in the idea that he was now at rest, even if it was too late for his wounds to be treated. This poignant story speaks to the many tragic and untold moments of the Civil War, where soldiers, both young and old, faced death in often unforeseen circumstances. In a sense, the church not only became a sanctuary for the living, but also a place where the restless spirits of the past might linger, forever tied to the painful history of war. Andersonville Prison. Champ Ferguson's execution for war crimes marked him as one of only two individuals from the Civil War to be sentenced to death for such offenses. The other was Captain Henry Wirtz, the commander of the notorious Andersonville Prison, formerly known as Camp Sumter. Andersonville, located in Georgia, was a Confederate prison camp that became infamous due to the severe conditions faced by Union prisoners of war. Over the course of the war, more than 13,000 Union soldiers perished within its walls, primarily due to starvation, dehydration, and disease. The environment at Andersonville was horrendous and characterized by extreme neglect. Overcrowding, lack of food, and unsanitary conditions led to a constant cycle of suffering. Some of the photographs taken of the survivors, with their gaunt faces and emaciated bodies, are eerily reminiscent of those taken in Nazi concentration camps, serving as a haunting reminder of the horrors they endured. Diseases like dysentery, scurvy, and typhoid fever swept through the already weakened prisoners, taking the lives of an estimated 100 soldiers a day. Prisoners who survived Andersonville would later describe their experiences in terms of unrelenting cruelty, with many likening it to a living nightmare. For them, the prison represented more than just a place of confinement. It was a place where hope was suffocated and human dignity was stripped away. Many of the former POWs who survived the camp would even go so far as to say that their time in Andersonville felt like an eternal torment, believing that it was a version of hell on earth. The legacy of Andersonville continues to haunt the collective memory of the Civil War, symbolizing the tragic consequences of a war that tested the limits of human endurance and mercy. The tragedy of Sullivan Ballou. Major Sullivan Ballou, a Union Army officer, became well known after his poignant letter to his wife, Sarah, was featured in Ken Burns's acclaimed documentary, The Civil War. The letter, which was read aloud in the documentary, offered a powerful and emotional look into the mind of a soldier during the Civil War, changing how many people viewed the soldiers of that time. Before its publication, the common perception of soldiers was that they were often simple men with basic education. However, Ballou's letter revealed that they could also be articulate, thoughtful, and deeply emotional, offering insight into the more intellectual and poetic side of the soldier's experience. One of the most touching sections of the letter reads, "The memories of the blissful moments I have spent with you come creeping over me, and I feel most gratified to God and to you that I have enjoyed them so long, and hard it is for me to give them up and burn to ashes the hopes of future years. When God willing, we might still have lived and loved together and seen our sons grow up to honorable manhood around us." The letter not only conveyed his deep love for his wife, but also his sorrow at the prospect of not being able to fulfill his hopes for the future, hopes that were tied to his family and the life he imagined having after the war. This heartfelt message has since become an iconic representation of the emotional struggles faced by soldiers, illustrating the personal sacrifices behind the uniform. The eloquence and depth of Ballou's words starkly contrasted with the often brutal and tragic fate that awaited many soldiers. Just 1 week after writing the letter, Major Ballou met his end at the First Battle of Bull Run, where he was severely wounded. A cannonball tore through his right leg, and despite efforts to save him, he succumbed to his injuries. The aftermath of his death was marked by an even greater tragedy. While the details are unconfirmed, reports suggest that Confederate soldiers discovered his final resting place. His body was exhumed. Ballou's story is one of both beauty and tragedy. His letter remains a testament to the deep emotional life of the soldiers of the Civil War, and his untimely death underscores the brutality that shaped the lives and deaths of so many who fought in that conflict. Champ Ferguson. For most Southern men who supported the Confederacy, the decision was straightforward: enlist in the Army and contribute to the cause as a soldier. However, Champ Ferguson, a man from Tennessee, chose to take a different route. Rather than formally joining the Confederate military, Ferguson opted to form his own group of like-minded individuals. With this self-formed unit, he took on the role of leader, commanding a band of men who followed his direction without any official recognition or oversight from the Confederate government. Ferguson's guerrilla warfare tactics were brutal and ruthless, often targeting anyone he deemed an enemy. His band of fighters carried out attacks not only on military targets, but also on civilians, particularly those suspected of supporting the Union cause. Ferguson's methods were indiscriminate. His group would strike both men and women, young and old, with little regard for their status or condition. It is said that they would strike at night or when their targets were vulnerable, such as when they were wounded, elderly, or even asleep. While many of Ferguson's actions during the war are shrouded in mystery, certain reports suggest that his attacks included acts of brutality after death. Although unverified, it has been claimed that Ferguson sometimes desecrated the bodies of his victims. These actions, if true, paint a chilling picture of a man who not only participated in violence, but appeared to revel in the suffering of others. After the war ended, Ferguson's actions eventually caught up with him. He was captured and brought to trial, where he confessed to personally killing over 100 people during the conflict. His involvement in such acts of violence, particularly against non-combatants, led to his conviction for war crimes. Ultimately, Ferguson was hanged for his crimes, but his legacy remains one of the darkest aspects of the Civil War, highlighting the lengths to which some individuals would go to pursue their own version of justice, even at the cost of human decency. The story of Champ Ferguson raises significant questions about the nature of warfare and the morality of guerrilla tactics. His actions contrast sharply with the more traditional and disciplined approach of regular armies, revealing the often chaotic and brutal reality of war on the fringes. While some may view Ferguson as a hero of the Southern cause, others see him as a symbol of the darkest impulses that can emerge in times of civil strife. Washington again. One of the most iconic stories from the Civil War revolves around Colonel Joshua Chamberlain and his leadership of the 20th Maine Infantry Regiment during the Battle of Gettysburg. The regiment played a pivotal role in defending the Union line by holding Little Round Top, a key position during the battle. Their courageous charge against overwhelming Confederate forces is often credited with preventing a complete Union defeat at one of the war's most crucial moments. However, a curious and mystical element surrounds this heroic episode. Many soldiers in Chamberlain's regiment reported witnessing an apparition of George Washington, clad in the full attire of the Revolutionary War, leading the charge. According to these soldiers, Washington's ghost appeared at the critical moment, offering a kind of divine encouragement to the weary men who were fighting for their survival. When Colonel Chamberlain was asked about the mysterious sighting in later years, he expressed a profound sense of uncertainty, but acknowledged the psychological impact it likely had on his troops. He is quoted as saying, "I have no doubt that it had a tremendous psychological effect in inspiring the men. Doubtless it was a superstition, but who among us can say that such a thing was impossible? We have not yet sounded or explored the immortal life that lies out beyond the bar. I only know the effect, but I dare not explain or deny the cause." Chamberlain's response reflects the deep mystery surrounding the incident. While he acknowledged the possibility that the vision of Washington was a mere superstition or psychological phenomenon, he also left room for doubt, suggesting that the boundary between the physical world and what lies beyond may not be as clear-cut as we assume. His words hint at a broader philosophical contemplation of life, death, and the unknown. something that soldiers during the Civil War, who faced mortality on a daily basis, may have been particularly inclined to ponder. The story of Washington's ghost is not just a tale of supernatural intrigue. It also underscores the psychological strain experienced by soldiers in the midst of battle. Whether or not Washington's ghost actually appeared on Little Round Top may never be known, but the impact of this vision, whether real or imagined, may have provided a much-needed boost to the morale of Chamberlain's men. Green Eyes. Among the eerie stories passed down by Civil War soldiers is the legend of Old Green Eyes, a supernatural entity that is said to haunt the site of the Battle of Chickamauga, which took place in 1863 across Tennessee and Georgia. The creature's description varies depending on who is telling the story, but all versions share one key detail: its glowing green eyes. In some accounts, Old Green Eyes is described as a towering, ghostly figure draped in white, with a menacing, otherworldly presence. In other stories, the entity is a swamp-like creature, its green skin covered in slimy scales, with sharp fangs protruding from its mouth. One particularly haunting version tells of a headless soldier wandering the battlefield in search of the head he lost in life, yet still possessing the bright, eerie green eyes that seem to defy logic and reality. Despite the varying forms this creature takes, the common thread in every version of the tale is the vivid, glowing green eyes that pierce through the darkness. This detail has made Old Green Eyes a particularly unsettling figure in local lore, one that continues to captivate and terrify those who hear the tale. The origin of this spectral being likely stems from the horrific events that unfolded at Chickamauga. Over the course of just 3 days, more than 34,000 soldiers perished in the brutal fighting, making it one of the bloodiest engagements of the Civil War. The intense loss of life and the sheer chaos of the battle have contributed to the haunting atmosphere of the area, fueling stories of restless spirits and strange apparitions. In the midst of such violence and tragedy, it's not surprising that the battlefield became a place of myth and legend. The natural human response to witnessing so much death and destruction is to seek an explanation, often in the form of the supernatural. The stories of Old Green Eyes, with its glowing gaze, may have served as a way for soldiers to process the overwhelming trauma of battle, projecting their fear and grief onto a tangible figure that could embody the horrors they experienced. As we've seen, the Civil War wasn't just a conflict of soldiers on the battlefield. It was a time steeped in eerie legends, untold horrors, and chilling stories that still resonate with us today. From ghostly apparitions to harrowing accounts of bravery and fear, these tales offer a glimpse into the darker side of a war that forever changed the course of American history. If these stories piqued your interest, make sure to subscribe and stay tuned for more spine-tingling facts and untold tales from the Old West and beyond. You won't want to miss what's coming next, so hit that subscribe button and let's continue to uncover the mysteries of our past together.